And there I was the girl from Suits.
This one's wife. Reconciliation. Who wants it? Reconciliation is in the air. Everywhere I look around. Reconciliation's in the air. With every report from a news hound. And I don't know if I'm being foolish. And I don't know if I'm being wise. But it's something that I must believe in. Every time I unzip, oh my flies. Yes, John Paul Young with Love is in the Air, but it's reconciliation that is in the air, which Harry might well be singing to himself as a consequence of the repeated reports that there is going to be a rapprochement between Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, and the House of Monty Shit Show. So much so, this caused an article from Valentine Low to be written over the weekend, which posed the question, would Prince Harry and this one's wife be welcome back? The article commences, "It is a Saturday in June 2027 and the crowds have gathered outside Buckingham Palace to see the royal family watch the traditional fly-past after trooping the colour. As the family gathers on the balcony, the eyes of the crowd, and more importantly, the lenses of the photographers, are not focused on the king. They are not even watching Prince Louis, now 9, and still more than capable of stealing the show. They only have eyes for 2 people, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex back in the royal fold after years of self-imposed exile in California. As the Sussexes stand there, this one's wife offering her most dazzling smile while Harry yet again finds himself incapable of hiding the hint of a scowl, they are greeted with, well, what? Apart from the incessant clicking of camera shutters, cheers, boos, or a confusing mixture of the two. Shockingly, could it even be indifference? The Sussexes are not used to indifference. That one can even entertain such a fantasy has only been possible in the last week, since photographs were published showing Toby and Andrea, Buckingham Palace's Director of Communications, having a meeting with the Sussexes' 2 most senior PR aides, Meredith Maines, who was also head of the household in Monty Shit Show, and Liam Maguire. It was billed as the tentative first steps in a gradual process of rapprochement, and indeed, after the meeting was leaked to the Mail on Sunday, make that very tentative. But it immediately sparked much speculation about where it might lead. Indeed. Is it the case that reconciliation is in the air? Now, Valentine Low in his article posed the question, if they do come back, how will it go down with the British public? And I can already hear your murmurs and growlings of discontent at such a decision to allow them to come back into the royal family. A poll was taken and 2,108 adults were asked over a period of time, would it be a good thing or a bad thing if they, the Sussexes, returned to live in the United Kingdom? Now, in respect of Prince Harry, 24% said good thing, 22% said bad thing. But then that means that 54% didn't express a view. Therefore, indifference. When it came to this one's wife, 12% said it would be a good thing. A whopping 41% again stated it's a bad thing. So, leaving aside indifference, it was relatively evenly split in relation to Prince Harry, with him just edging it as a good thing. But most people see it, or rather a substantial amount of individuals see it as a bad thing. And then the next group would be indifference, and then a much smaller group see it as a good thing in relation to this one's wife. Then the next question was asked, would it be a good or bad thing if the Sussexes resumed being active members of the royal family? For Prince Harry, 32% said good, 27% said bad. For this one's wife, 14%, 1-4, said good thing, 48% said bad thing. Then the question was, do you think the Duke and Duchess of Sussex should have their titles removed, or should they be allowed to keep them? Should be removed, 48%, allowed to keep, 29%. Then forgiveness was addressed. Should Harry forgive the royals? 44% said yes, 12% said no. Should the royals forgive Harry? 40% said yes, 26% said no. There was no poll in respect of this one's wife. Accordingly, another article about potential reconciliation and what the mood of the public might be, which overall still doesn't favour the Sussexes. But who actually wants this reconciliation? It's been spoken a lot about in the press as a consequence of that meeting. The Sussexes? Well, certainly, from their perspective, it would be advantageous because the royal connection is all that they've got, and being able to rely upon that further would be advantageous. It would be advantageous for this one's wife because she could continue to milk the royal connection for the pursuit of the prime aims. It's likely to be difficult for her because of the hostility that she will face, legitimate hostility, I hasten to add, but her narcissism might ultimately see, given the absence of any alternatives, that it's the only thing that could be done, and therefore reconciliation would suit. Naturally, given her high-handed and arrogant attitude, it would have to be on her terms, and she would expect an apology, something I don't think that would ever be forthcoming. Harry would want it because he would want to have involvement with his family again. It also would mean that he's less likely to get as much aggravation from his wife if he's able to turn on the tap again financially. And therefore it's quite clear that the Sussexes would want reconciliation, mainly for self-serving reasons, and entirely, of course, when it comes to this one's wife. What about on the other side? What about Charles? Well, certainly he would want to welcome Harry back for the purpose of managing his facade. He doesn't want to be seen as a monarch that has an unruly family. Remember, he did once say to Harry and William that he didn't want them fighting in his dotage, that he didn't want his last years to be made a misery. And therefore it would aid him if Harry came back to eat some humble pie, because it would show that he was under control. He'd be less inclined to want this one's wife to return to the fold, but might be willing to accept that on suitable terms, because it wouldn't threaten his need for control if it meant Harry would come back. But ultimately, I don't see that this is a major issue for King Charles, that whilst he will maintain that facade of wanting his son back and to see his grandchildren, he recognises and has accepted the situation, and his own need for control isn't going to cause him to want them to come back because of the disruption that it could occur. If he's able to control it and it makes his facade look good, he'd accept it. But I don't see that King Charles is in any rush to have them back in, and therefore he will be slow to accept their return. I know that many people are concerned that Charles is weak and that he's likely to readmit them rather than deal with them strictly as many people want to be done. But I wouldn't underestimate that. He'd also, of course, be pressured by Camilla because of what's been said about her, and also by William in respect to the general damage done to the reputation of the royal family by the gruesome twosome. And therefore, William, Catherine and Camilla are much closer within Charles's sphere of influence, and therefore his own narcissism would require him to assert control over them more readily by accepting what they suggest, as opposed to allowing the much more distant Sussexes back in. Remember, the narcissism has to control everybody that's on the radar, and William and Catherine and Camilla will come up on the radar far more often than the Sussexes will do, and therefore, by going along with the maintenance of a no-contact regime, and I must emphasise, those that continue to state that the royal family are grey-rocking the Sussexes, you don't understand grey-rocking. They're not grey-rocking them, they're implementing total no-contact. I've mentioned it elsewhere. I'm not going to go into detail in this video, but people who keep saying they're grey-rocking them, they're not. Grey-rocking is not what they're doing. But ultimately, I don't see that King Charles would be particularly motivated to admit them. What about William? Well, he doesn't have that pathological need for control, but nevertheless, his emotional empathy for his wife and also the reputation of the royal family means that he regards what the Sussexes have done as unforgivable. And I don't think that William sees any way back in relation to what has happened. And that he will put his duty to the country and to the monarchy ahead of his relationship with his brother in the way that his grandmother did. Service before self. And that means no way back in for Harry nor his handler. Accordingly, with regard to reconciliation, who actually wants it? The Sussexes would do, Charles minimally, William not at all. Catherine similarly wouldn't want it. But you know who it is that wants reconciliation more than anybody else? It's the people that are in the back of the thumbnail. It's the media. It's the press. At the moment, there's a bit of a lull with the Sussexes, isn't there? Harry went to Angola. This one's wife is perhaps off having some more surgery being done and is keeping a low profile while she pumps out shite on Instagram. So there's not a huge amount to talk about in relation to them. But of course, if they came back into the royal family, that would provide plenty of new material for the press and the media to comment upon. They're in the business of selling advertising, selling copy, and getting clicks and views. Accordingly, they want the Sussexes to maintain a public image. They want either war or the breaking out of peace, because then it would bring further opportunity to comment upon them. And all of the discussion that you've heard as of late pushed about reconciliation, I don't see coming particularly from Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace. I see it somewhat coming from Monty Shitshow, but a big part of this is being played up by the media because they would ultimately benefit from reconciliation. And I think they're stating the case for it far higher than it actually is. They, as the media invariably tries to, set the agenda. They are trying to control the narrative to make it happen because ultimately they will benefit from a reconciliation taking place. Accordingly, if we were to rank who was wanting reconciliation from least to most, William at the bottom with Catherine, then Camilla, then Charles, and then at the top it would be the Sussexes and the media. What do you think, valuable viewers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.